Welcome to the Doom Den. Hi all, welcome to the Doom Den. I'm Dr. Tom McKnight. And it's Wednesday, September 2nd. Yes, I had to think about it because all days kind of run together at times. So, what to chat about today? Well, a couple of things related to Hurricane Laura, and then of course we'll chat about the human violence related stuff again. And probably veer off topic every now and then to make fun of some people and some things that are going on. And also chat a bit about different leadership traits. Yes, the last one's actually my favorite topic. So, where should we start? Well, let's start about make fun of someone. How about Joe Biden? That's a good one to make fun of. He really can't. He can't even give a good speech, even with a teleprompter. So his speeches basically sound just like Mr. Mackey in South Park. That's bad. Okay. Okay. Then there's the end of his speech, pretty much. And on the other hand, the only thing that one can say is, yeah, Biden's a dumbass, basically. So, okay, on to much more important things. Let's see if I can get the screen to come up, and let's go through here. I'll start with this one right here, and let's get updates on Hurricane Laura. Okay, so again, when searching for any kind of updates, it's really searching for anything. And as most people know, there's a whole lot of bullshit also on the internet. So, sifting through what's important and what's not. Got a little practice run here. Okay, first one. After surviving Hurricane Laura, 4 Louisiana family members die of carbon monoxide poisoning. Yes, very unfortunate. And also, the Hurricane Laura renews fears for those living near refineries and chemical facilities. Yes, in a lot of those main areas between Lake Charles and Beaumont, there are a lot of petrochemical facilities, and that's always been one of the greatest hazards in the aftermath of the actual storm itself. From different refineries and a lot of really bad shit leaking into the water and ground. That response right there is going to take quite a while. It's really no way to know how long it's going to take. You know, things like that don't get done overnight. And a little bit of tidbit in case of hazardous material spills and major contamination, like a lot of this stuff. Generally, those type of incidents, as directed by the National Response Framework, when it occurs on land, the Environmental Protection Agency is the lead agency for that. If it occurs in navigatable bodies of water, yes, I totally fucked that word up. My bad. Then the Coast Guard has it. So if it's a major river or lake and it's in the Coast Guard's responsibility, it may be in the Coast Guard's responsibility for the lead federal agency on it. Of course, if it's in the Gulf of Mexico, that would definitely be in the Coast Guard's jurisdiction as the lead agency for that response. And an additional update on that is U.S. Gulf of Mexico oil output down by 19.9% in a hurricane's aftermath, because that area does have a whole lot of refineries. And a lot of that oil that does come from the Gulf goes to that area to be refined. So potential energy decrease as a whole, as a kind of after effect hazard of the hurricane itself. It's all kind of really making a point that the whole nature of disaster is really complexity. It's really not just one thing that causes havoc. It could be a whole multitude of things, from the physical damage to economic impacts such as that oil production. And of course, there's also economic impacts from people being out of work and displaced, which also leads to, well, food issues. And one of the cool things I did see, though, is, I forgot the name of that outfit now, but they have chefs from all over the country, and they brought a lot of professional chefs in, set up a mobile kitchen, and are making thousands of meals a day to hand out for free to people. Speaking of things free to people, if any people are in need of housing assistance, where they filed for FEMA individual assistance, and the inspector will go out there and assess the damages and interview the people who applied. The inspectors that get sent out are free. The agency pays them, whether it's contractor or as employees, legitimate inspectors for the housing. Do not need any payment. And as a matter of fact, if anybody wants to inspect the house and asks for payment, you know, they are a fraud. They are completely full of shit. Do not trust them. As a matter of fact, it'd be a good idea to report those motherfuckers. Anyone that takes advantage over people, and when worse things happen, well, those motherfuckers that try to take advantage, they need to be dealt with very, very severely. In all honesty, if those people are trying to commit fraud in disaster areas, if they just happen to get their thrown out in the fucking swamp, I would have no problem with that. Okay, now going on down, you see what we're trying to find is updates related to a hurricane and babble on about it a little bit. So, of course, in modern day news, it is largely filled with this area, opinions. When we're trying to find out facts, opinions are basically just the opposite as facts. I don't really give a flying fuck about what anybody's opinions are. With that being said, that relates to just in general, really. So let's look at a few of these quotes here. Spring Fire Department Chief. They're definitely prepared better than all of our previous events. All of our apparatuses were in service. Our staff was ready, waiting, and willing to do what it took to be successful. Okay, that's a great observation and a good story from the department chief. All of their personnel were willing and ready to go, and yes, that's actually a very fortunate thing that they themselves weren't actual victims of it, to where they couldn't go into action when need be. And that's one thing when it comes to response agencies in disaster areas. A lot of time their personnel are also affected very badly and may not be able to get into action, even though they may want to. But hey, their own families come first, right? Okay, next one, Valero. That's an oil company. There's a gas stations all over the place, in a lot of places that you can see going down the road. So, in advance of Hurricane Laura's expected landfall, Valero's Port Arthur refinery is in the process of an organized shutdown to ensure safety and protect the environment. That is an example of implementing their continuity plan. An organized shutdown will basically keep a lot of the material contained into an area where it needs to be contained. The next one, Governor of Louisiana, John Bel Edwards. We're only going to dodge a bullet so many times, and the current forecast for Laura has focused intently on Louisiana. So they knew it was coming, and they actually got prepared and did what they can to evacuate as much people as possible. Again, when really faced with a very, very bad worst case scenario ready to become reality, the only reasonable expectation for any government level is that they're taking action to do everything possible to really reduce the amount of harm and loss of life and property. And it's never going to be a total prevention when it comes to things like hurricanes. So it's a very unreasonable expectation for a governor, president, or any other top elected official to do everything to completely remove all risk and hazards associated with something like hurricanes or tornadoes and those types of things. It's not humanly possible to do that. So we can look at a couple of images here. There's a park flooded. There's a plane flying over. That'd be a crazy ass job. Flying the hurricanes over, or flying over the hurricanes. Okay, so under videos of Hurricane Laura, some of these videos can actually give good, at least somewhat of an idea of level of damage. I mean, from just a real bird's eye view for people that are interested. So you can kind of see things that are toppled. But a lot of videos don't show can be a lot of the small compounding infrastructure damage. We talk about like road washouts here and there, maybe bridges that are cracked from getting smacked with big old logs, those type of things. All right, let's go back up to here to show. All right, a place to go for updates, especially when it relates to what kind of assistance the federal government will provide. So we've got here FEMA.gov for Hurricane Laura. Click on that. And we'll wait for the page to load. What it's going to show here is whether individual assistance has been declared, public assistance has been declared, and hazard mitigation. And it'll give the places to go for individual assistance, for public assistance that can be coordinated to the state, or if it's a tribe, they can coordinate that directly with the Federal Emergency Management Agency. So here we go, place to look for information, Hurricane Laura. For most up-to-date resources about hurricane recovery in Louisiana, please go to the disaster page with a link on there. So individuals and business owners who sustain losses in designated areas can apply for assistance at disasterassistance.gov. So it gives a link to that as well. So for individuals, there is an individual households program covered by FEMA's individual assistance program. It's authorized under the Stafford Act. For business owners, they would actually go for a loan under the Small Business Administration. We'll cover the Stafford Act itself in more in depth in another session. So just want to give a good overview and to kind of go to where a person can find out more specific information and where to go to apply if needed. All right, so not time to go on to the next topic. Which is going to be the human caused bullshit again. So, We all know Portland's still burning, and a bunch of Antifa terrorists are still raising hell there. The idiot mayor who decides that all the citizens should not be safe. Well, he has security guards all around him all the time and just lets the city completely go to hell and refuses any assistance from the federal government to help the situation. So, yeah, in Portland, nothing's gotten better in Portland. That idiot mayor is just letting terrorists run his city into the ground. So, good job on him. He had to get mayor of the year. Let's see what's happening with the Kenosha riots. Yeah, I'm not going to give any kind of credence to rioters calling themselves protesters because they're not. Okay, civil rights lawsuits, blah, blah, blah. Bad guys don't want to have laws enforced on them, which makes sense because, well, that's the bad guy's whole MO is not want to follow the fucking rules. So the president decides that he's going to go meet with the governor and meet with the police, tell the police what a good job they're doing and dealing with a very complex situation to where the need to restore law and order also has to be balanced with preserving civil rights. Not creating any more incidents that can be used to further inflame the situation. So we can see on this one here, yes, this is not peaceful protesting. This is fucking rioting and vandalism and destroying people's property. And not to mention public property from the roads that are on fire there. The vehicle fire, that's the person's property that they need to get to work and get to the store and get to places where people need to go. I'm sure they can probably walk or use a bike, but hey, a lot of things are a long distance and that's not very practical. And the bottom line is, that wasn't the protesters' fucking car to begin with, so they have no business lighting it on fire. Okay, there's a town hall. Look. Yeah, the election part. Whether or not anything happening will really matter. I'll wait for them to decide. The most important part of this is another building burning. I highly doubt it. That's Antifa headquarters, and they light themselves on fire, even though that would actually help a lot of people out if the Antifa terrorists just lit themselves on fire. All right, so let's see what a few of these ones say about it. Let's start with the Kenosha resident. One good thing is our community all rose up. We all came out, we cleaned up, we boarded up, and now we're painting the town we love and we'll rise up. Great job. They're organizing, they're trying to get their community back in shape. Here we go, another one. Vandalism, armed militia, gun violence, and fatal shootings in Kenosha are not advancing the cause of racial justice in the wake of the police shooting of Jacob Blake. That's a fabulous one there. The governor is continuing to work with other states in facilitating additional National Guard or state patrol support. So they're organizing a unified effort to all deal with the problem. And the president toured the riot-damaged businesses in Kenosha. Again, it wasn't Antifa and Black Lives Matter protesters and rioters burning their own shops in protest or anything against the man. It was all of them coming to an area most of them weren't even from and burning down other people's stuff. So the president showed up and toured it and chatted with police and see what any kind of help you can provide, if the governor's willing to accept it, and to get a first-hand look of the horrible shit that happened. Again, more pictures of things burning. A car dealership targeted by rioters. Again, absolutely nothing to do with Jacob Blake. Hey, here's a good one. Gun sales soar in Kenosha. Well, no shit. They have a bunch of protesters and anarchists causing havoc in their town. They need to protect themselves, right? Yes, that's why people have a Second Amendment and why we need to own and know how to use firearms in case this type of bad shit breaks out in our areas. Okay. For shits and giggles, let's see what kind of a shit show Portland looks like at the moment. Notice the riots is the first thing that popped up. Oh, the poor Portland mayor says he'll move out after protests outside his condo building draws arrest. Oh no. After months of ignoring the needs of his population for being safe, he's now whining that he has to move because the shit hit his front door. All right, so state police returned to Portland after protest shooting. Yes, when one of those terrorists killed a person for supporting a particular political candidate who happens to be the U.S. president. Whether or not anybody likes him, it's still a fact. He's still the president of the United States. And I'd say the same thing if Obama was in office still. And there's the opinion one. Portland clashes. Americans want peace, not Portland's riots and perverse leadership. That's from the Detroit News. That's actually a very good point for an opinion part. How long will Democrats pretend chaos in Portland is normal? Well, as long as Joe Biden walks around with his head up his ass. So it's probably going to be quite a long time that Democrats will pretend that chaos is normal. Quotes. Oh, this has to be a good one. Ted Wheeler, Mayor of Portland. Portlanders, we're on to you. We have already seen your reckless disregard of human life in your bumbling response to the pandemic, and you know you've reached the conclusion that images of yeah, that wasn't very coherent. Notice he hasn't said anything about protesters, rioters, stop burning our city down. No, we didn't say any of that. He only cried about it because they were coming to his front door. All right, Chad Wolf, U.S. Secretary of Homeland Security. We're standing by to support Portland. At the same time, President Trump has made it abundantly clear that there will come a point when state and local officials fail to protect its citizens from, I guess that ... is going to be harm. Michael Simon, U.S. District Judge. Military and law enforcement personnel can engage around the world without attacking journalists. Federal defendants can respect the plaintiff's First Amendment rights. In Portland, judge exempts journalists, legal observers from Portland protest dispersal. Basically, yeah. Judge upholds it that if your journalists and legal observers are observing, they can't get tossed in jail along with the rioters. And there's friends who remember the man who was killed in shooting near the Portland protest. There's a picture of the guy. Riot declared in Portland as mob tries to torch police union headquarters. That was August 25th. Well, no shit, they're just now declaring a riot after it's been going on for a few months. So, let's look at these pictures here. What are these guys? Terrorists. Antifa terrorists. Well, I guess on a good note, or at least their mask wearing might help reduce the spread of COVID a little bit. Portland protest turns into vital brutal assault caught on video. Portland has seen 81 consecutive nights of unrest in the city after George Floyd's death in police custody in May. At the same time, that unfortunate thing happened in Minneapolis. And well, Black Lives Matter did a good job of really bringing the subject into public consciousness to help stop things like that in the future. The Portland thing really had nothing to do with it. It was a good excuse for those Antifa terrorists and other left-wing terrorists to, well, bring their socialist revolution into the streets of the cities in the country. Basically, only in the cities that they're not going to be properly dealt with because they have very weak and fellow socialist mayors in charge. So, all the more reason to own firearms and know how to use them well in case this shit actually does break out on your front door. And I'm not really using that front door metaphorically either, because as we've seen in a lot of those Kenosha riots and even those other riots, that the front door can be very, very literally, because a lot of those images, some of those images and some of the videos show that shit going down right down in residential neighborhoods. So, what I want to know when it comes to buying and using firearms, what kind of firearms should I buy? Very, very good question. For those that have that question anyways. The short answer is one you can use very well. And some things go into a factor of that. Yes, fit. Fit is a very, very important thing. Everybody's bodies are different. Everybody's hand sizes are different. Everybody's eyesights are different. So, yes, I have a little bit bigger hands, so I can fit my hands around a little bigger grips and a little smaller grips, but yes, my hand doesn't fit well on them. So, yes, preferably for me, it's usually a decent sized grip. That's one thing. And for a long gun, rifle, or shotgun, yes, one that fits well. It's not too long as far as the stock. But it's also not too short to where my face is right next to a part of the firearm that's going to hit me in the face from its recoil. So yes, feel them how they feel in your shoulder, if they're comfortable, something that a person can think they can carry and shoot and use very well. And be in mind that it might take some little bit of trial and error, and there's a lot of ranges where actual indoor shooting ranges where they have different ones for rent. So a person can rent some and get some lessons if somebody hasn't ever used one before, and learn which ones, well, they can use the best. Recoil part goes into the caliber selection as well. If somebody is new to having any type of firearm, yes, a lower recoil is actually a very good idea. It'll help people from developing bad habits like jerking a trigger or anticipating and dipping the firearm down. And since I'm on this topic here, let me get one for an example. Be right back. Open bowl. One thing, always make sure a weapon is unloaded. Safety rule number one. So, what I mentioned about the jerking the trigger part, okay? That, I'm going to still look at the camera while I'm talking, just to kind of give a demonstration. So, the weapon is unloaded. So, weapon is still unloaded, and I always like double and triple check to make sure. Okay, so weapon on safe, though, ready to fire. You see the safe on that side, you need to fire. Okay, watch the trigger. Nice, smooth, and crisp. That's how proper trigger control works. So, I said jerking the trigger. This is what I meant by that. Like that. You can move it one way or another. And if you're actually pulling it, it's going to pull. Like from right hand, it's going to pull from right. So that can make shots go way off. And another thing, when the heavy recoil, something is too heavy of a recoil for somebody, back on safe, is what they do is watch my forearm. When they snug in the shoulder, when they fire in order to keep recoil down, they do this, which will throw the shot way low. So yes, this is the AR-15. This is 6.5 Grendel, and yes, I can shoot a lot heavier rounds because I'm very comfortable with them. That's personal preference. And this one also has light enough recoil where I can teach my wife to shoot a lot better because the recoil is fairly light, even though the round is. So it's pretty powerful, very good for deer, hog size animals and things like that. It also has a pretty good range for shooting things out a little farther distance. But above all, the recoil is pretty light. Yes, I really love that. Also, the 300 British, the Enfield rifles. Yes, the recoil is a lot heavier, and for me, it's just fine. It's not too bad. And they're great to shoot. They have good distance. Also, the nostalgia of the Enfield rifle. That really served one capacity in one form or another since its invention, I think the early 1890s. Up until the 1960s, so it served the British very well. It really served the British very well for kicking the Nazis' ass, and also for kicking the Kaiser's troops' ass from World War I. No point in me digging that out. I kind of got the gist of, well, fit the tool to yourself. Another thing about fit, like stock size. It's comfortable. Like this is comfortable for me. There are ones with I also wanted one with a solid one for carrying around the woods and stuff. They do have sliding ones that can be adjusted, and not only this model of the rifle, but in actually quite a few modern rifles have a adjustable stock to help fit people. But for those that don't, if the stock is too long for someone, it can be cut like a qualified gunsmith and make it a little bit shorter to fit somebody. And when it comes to handguns, like this one, yes, fit even more important. Also, weight is something that a person is going to be carrying around all day. It's better not to have something overloaded. Pull your pants down. Okay, it's empty. So fit again. the hand here. Oh, wrong way. So yes, without the magazine in there, it's a little, that grip is a little bit small for my hand. However, with that magazine and that extension on there, it's actually just right for my hand. And it also feels good. It points naturally. This is the most important thing, being able to point naturally. Draw it, get on target, fire, one smooth motion, which I will demonstrate to the best of my ability here. The camera. So, yes, pull my pants up. That's an additional thing. So, draw, get on target in one smooth motion. So, okay, the putting back in my holster wasn't a very good smooth motion, but at least coming out of my holster was. So, ready? Okay. Weak side foot slightly forward. Present. Just like that. Practice is one of those things, make sure it's empty. Practice over and over toward drawing and presenting. Because rarely does something just automatically happen when the weapon is already out. I mean, you got the shooting range, yes, but most of them don't allow drawing from holsters. So just have to go down here and they're ready to fire and fire. Fire and fire. Down, side acquisition, fire. Down, side acquisition, fire. Same thing when practicing in the holster is draw, side acquisition. That's it. Repetitive motion to help smooth, to make that process as smooth as possible. Fit, how comfortable is it? How big of a caliber can somebody have? Yeah, it all depends on a person. Yep. Again, for beginning people, the lowest caliber that'll take to get the job done, really. And there's another part of that whole formula, and that is the projectiles. This is what does the real damage. This by itself is an expensive paperweight. This does the stuff. And there's a whole variety of them on here. This is a 9mm Liberty Civil Defense ammunition. I really like these. There's the Winchester PDX that I also really like. Those are my two favorites. Where I put my magazine. There it is. So this is called a magazine. It's called a magazine because ammunition goes in it for being stored. It's like back in the old days when things were done by black powder and everything was muzzle loaded, whether it was cannons or rifles or handguns. Magazines were a place in forts and military bases where the ammunition was stored. It was a building where powder, balls, and everything were stored. So I guess the kind of term came to when ammunition became able to fit into one cartridge, and the cartridge fit into its storage thing. It's called a magazine. We'll show an example of a clip, but I'd have to get out my 303, my British Enfield, and I'd show what the actual clip is. Basically, the bullets just clip onto this little metal thing about that long. Or if anyone knows what an M1 Grand clip is, that's a clip. These other box style ones are called magazines. Just to clear off terms. And that's why if you got a whole room of people with PhDs, nothing will get done because we'll all be arguing about terms for the duration of the whole meeting. Okay, now go over a little bit about firearms, ammunition, things to practice on. Remember, if you're practicing on drawing and presenting in the safety of a home, ensure that the weapon is unloaded. Check it like 3 times, check it 5 times before actually beginning the drill. Safety is the #1 thing. So, knives. Let's go over with knives, because they're one of the best and most effective tools to have, whether it's in a vital situation or disaster situation, or everyday working situation. It's one of the most utilitarian items a person can have. So there are various. I don't know why I need to say various that many times, but one various would have actually done the trick. So, little show and tell. There are various types of knives, like this butterfly knife, as they're known in the U.S. Okay, a lot of good aspects of it. This one's actually made by Remington. Yes, the same Remington that makes firearms. Has good steel on it. Pretty good steel on it, yes. Type and quality of steel, one of the best things to look for, or most important things to look for when shopping for a knife. So if unsure about that, you can Google different types of steels, or if you see something like it has a certain type of steel, Google it and see what different experts think of that particular steel. One of the best parts to look for of a good steel is one that holds an edge very well, and it can also take an edge. Again, holding an edge very well, in case it's a thing where a person may be unable to sharpen their knife for quite a while. Because, another safety tip, a sharp knife is a safe knife. A dull knife is an unsafe knife. You try to cut something with a dull knife, you more likely slip and end up stabbing yourself. And that really sucks when that happens, and not to mention it's also embarrassing. Especially, I'm social instinct. Anyhow, so okay, a benefit to this type of knife. Okay. Okay, see this thingy here? This is the lock thingy, right? It locks up, you can't open, right? You can put it in your pocket, carry it around. I just use a sheath on my belt. I don't like too many things in my pocket. So, pretty safe to carry around, right? Another good thing, if especially like the work situation, right? We're holding something with one hand and we gotta, cut with another hand, right? Still open up and I can cut with it with one hand while I'm holding something with the other hand. And I can also put it back in its safe mode really easily with just one hand. And another type of knife. There's a typical folder with a belt clip. And yes, these ones can fit in the belt and have a good clip. And it can be opened fairly easily. This is a spring assisted one. So I can open it fairly easily. And I can also close it and put it in like that fairly easily. Well, it can be used easily in one hand in the belt clip. And also can be opened if something actually instantly brushes it, or it's in the pocket, reach down and get change. Pull your hand up and then, catch that in, and you have your knife blade open up. So that's one of the drawbacks of those knives. Another type of knives are, of course, the fixed blades, which I'm sure everybody's familiar with. All kitchen knives are pretty much fixed blades. All your typical hunting knives are fixed blades, and I don't have any right near me to demonstrate one. And there's also a variety of multi-tools that come with pliers, a knife in them, screwdrivers, and all kinds of cool stuff to keep in a to-go bag, whether you want to call it an emergency bag or a to-go bag or your disaster kit, or you want to call it get the fuck out of Dodge kit bag. Whatever. There's no rules for what a person should call their ready-to-go bag. All right, so why are those things important? Well, it's all about having, in a way, it's about being a minimalist and having the things that you're probably going to need the most very accessible immediately. This is why a knife is so important, because they can be used for all kinds of things, from working to set up an emergency camp, to cleaning animals, to, well, cutting up dinner, cutting up potatoes, cutting up the meat, cutting up the veggies to make a stew. And it can also be used to fend off, well, bad people that want to do bad shit, when a firearm can't be deployed on those bad people wanting to do bad shit. Yes, it's not an ideal. In most knife fights, well, both parties get cut up pretty good. The loser is the one that gets cut up the worst and has actually the most life-threatening damage. And it's also not an ideal weapon to just have it on its own when you have an area where people are riding and stuff like that, and they're throwing bricks or skateboards or Molotov cocktails, or they have firearms. So all right, share the screen here. Let me get to one of my favorite topics, because this can go to, well, anytime somebody has an influence over somebody else in a good way to get things done. It is my leadership topic. So, I'm share the screen again. Pick the right one. All right, best practices. This is the one thing I developed for a work project to, well, really to help people that are in leadership positions recognize they are really in a leadership position. They are no longer the workers. Their job is now to influence people and to provide direction. So let's start with the top one, because, well, everything else gets built on that, really, and it's the most important overarching one. Utilize positive leadership traits at all times in order to build a team with a high level of unit cohesion. Yeah, I wrote this whole thing and I stumbled over reading it. My bad there. Okay, key part here. Utilize positive leadership traits at all times. At all times is the key part in there. And one of the things that make it most troublesome for people to follow a leader is when the leader doesn't even apply good traits, good discipline, treat people with respect all the time. And they only do it sometimes. Yes, a lot of respect and trust is lost because people say, well, that person doesn't even follow his own advice half the time. So it's all about discipline, being disciplined to do the right thing and utilize all the traits at all times. So then the high level of unit cohesion, that's really how people are pretty much stick together. They know how each other is gonna act almost before the other person does. They work together all the time. I mean, they even socialize. They really get to know each other very, very well, and they will stick together and they'll back each other's play. That's a high level of unit cohesion, and that's one of the things to strive for as a leader when you're building a team. All right, the next one. Effectively communicates and actively encourages multi-directional communication in order to stay informed and keep team members informed. Yep, that's definitely, I mean, it's one of the things where a leader has to actively work on their own communication skills. And they adapt and they improve all over time, right? If somebody just gets handed the job, so yeah, one of the first things they need to be able to do is effectively communicate with all of their people. And if somebody just by nature isn't a very, chitter-chattery person that communicates flawlessly, hey, it's something that they can work on. And that multi-directional communication is when you're also receiving feedback from the subordinates. And even if the feedback, hey, is against you, okay, just take it in, process it, like, okay, is there truth to this? Is it something I need to work on? And if so, how can I go about it? And it also may come out in a further chat with the same person who raised that issue. If they're like saying, hey, a lot of your communication, your direction, your emails, and even your speeches aren't completely clear. You just have to dig down into and find out, well, okay, what's not very clear about it? And they say, well, in your emails let's say you use too many adjectives and it's not direct enough, and it basically leaves me confused at the end of the email on whether to do something or not to do something. So a method of improvement, the person can be thinking, okay, in order to improve this communication, okay, I need to be more direct and just get right to the point in the bullets, in the bulleted points in the email to make sure everything is completely clear. Okay, another one may actually be speech. Somebody just actively uses, again, I'm going to go for the overuse of adjectives thing. So instead of saying, okay, this is our goal for the week, I know we all can get this done. Yes, it is a difficult goal to achieve, but I know we can do it. We just need to take these certain steps along the way in order to reach this goal. So set the goal, set the milestones in order to achieve this goal. Let people know that yes, they can get it. We can get the work done. Now the overuse of adjectives way is, well, basically talking about the goal and over explaining all of it and about how fantastic it will be when it's all done and how great everybody and fantastic and great and shit. I can't think of a good example at the moment, but I'm sure some people listening have heard somebody speak where they overuse adjectives. So direct communication is a lot of times the most effective. Okay, actually, on the opposite end of it, where direct communication can run into a little bit of problems is, well, in a way, being too direct. And hey, get this done. Well, yes, can that have been said a little bit better? Yes. Like along the lines of, hey, I need you to do this specific task by this specific time. Yes, basically the same direct statement. It's just phrased a lot better and it's more tactfully. It's more tactful, not tactfully. Okay. It's at the end of the day, and I've been babbling all day anyway, so I'm kind of screwing stuff up here. Okay, so that's where we talk about effective communication. Yes, being direct, good. However, use direct communication and be tactful. Remember, the way something is said is often even more important than what is actually said. That goes for voice tone and everything. Somebody may completely just, give a good direct direction to somebody by, hey, Joe, can you get this particular task done at this particular time? And they said it, and the way of their voice, it was a lot more elevated than it really needed to be, for whatever reason. Maybe the person, it doesn't matter. But what the receiver hears, somebody yelling at him to do something. So you're going to really be brought up, and that's where the multi-directional communication emphasis on it. Receive feedback from subordinates in order to get that two-way communication, multi-directional communication in a good working order. Somebody's like, hey, why are you yelling at me? Like, I'm not. Like, well, he just yelled that direction. Like, oh shit, I did? Okay, I did not mean for it to sound that way. I was elevating my voice a little bit because he's a little far away from me. Now that's all. I wasn't like yelling at somebody to be an ass. So, little miscommunication things can be cleared up really easily once somebody is aware of them. Just remember, the person that probably made that comment or command probably it sounded a whole lot differently to them than it did in the person receiving it. Again, multi-way communication all the time. Make a good sound practice to utilize that to avoid issues that can arise from simple miscommunication. The miscommunication also can arise from language proficiency, for instance. So yes, take practice. Okay, if we can summarize what leadership needs to do or should be doing in a simple way, in an oversimplified way, is they have to find a way to really moderate almost everything, really. There's a thing called transactional leadership. There's a thing called transformational leadership, two different styles. The transactional is oftentimes associated with authoritative style of leadership. However, that does not necessarily need to be the case all the time. Yes, it is objective driven. It is very direct. There's a clear hierarchy. And transformational leadership, on the other hand, is completely driven towards a vision and a mission and getting people to go along and getting people's buy-in for the mission and for the vision of the organization. So it gets people to go along willingly, as opposed to you do it because I tell you do it because you have to do it. Now, however, there are different instances when one is more appropriate than the other. There's also a way to be able to, bring different factors of each of those styles together in a workable manner. And yes, that takes practice, and it also takes, guess what? Effectively communicating and good multi-directional communication with everybody. Now, on to trustworthy and dependable. Trust is earned and built in both directions. Being dependable helps to build trust. That's, hey, we do what we say we're going to do. Yeah, sometimes things pop up and we have to change the schedule a little bit. However, go back to this other one. Effectively communicate it. Hey, I know we said I was going to sit down and we're going to work on some of your stuff together to kind of find out where some things are being slowed down. However, this thing popped up and I have to actually get to working on it. So we reschedule for a later time. And you're like, oh, absolutely, no problem. A whole lot better way than, well, just hopping onto that other thing and leaving the other person wondering where the hell you are, right? That leads to, oh, well, my leader isn't dependable because this one time I needed their help to go over some stuff to find where there's deficiencies, and they completely bailed and didn't even show up. Oh, yes, a big hit on the dependable part. So, oh yeah, back to that first point. Utilize positive leadership traits at all times. And then trust, yeah, earned in both directions between the leadership and their people. Leaders need to earn the trust and the respect of their people in the same manner as, well, they get the respect and trust of their people, and they, you know, it goes both ways. Another part of that is just treat everybody equally and fairly. Treat everyone equally and fairly. And also is a way to develop trust even better. No favoritisms. Yeah, I know some people like to hang out with others a little bit more, and they want to go out, they go out to lunch a bit more than they may in others. But hey, sometimes it can just be people like different foods, right? Or they may share similar beliefs and stuff, and they can just sit around and bullshit about that stuff out of the workplace a whole lot better than maybe some others. All right. That's a whole different than favoritism. Honesty. A high level of integrity is required to build trust. Again, another statement that pretty much stands alone. Competent. Foresight. Plans ahead. Being competent helps one to anticipate issues and work in advance to mitigate many issues. Planning allows the leader to provide direction to lead the unit towards. All right. This is also comes with developing trust and respect. Okay, leaders, yes, they need to know what's going on in their area of operation and their job, because they are the ones that are expected to mentor and to teach and to train their people. So it's a very reasonable expectation they're competent in all the work that's going to be done. That also, yes, helps people anticipate issues. They've been in these type of operations before. You know, there are certain issues that are going to pop up, and from the initial get-go with the people, they say, okay, hey, this is what I expect from you, and this is what you can expect from me. And when we move along through this whole process to achieve our goals and to accomplish our mission here, there are certain issues that tend to pop up in almost every type of operation, and here's how we're going to work to minimize them. We're going to set up everything initially. We're going to plan every area more efficiently from the very, very beginning part of the operation until the end. So planning every area. When it comes to daily work planning, have all the people plan out their day. What things are they going to be working on this day? What things are going to be working on the next day? And also be able to record their accomplishments as well, what they got done. They can report on what they've finished, what they didn't finish, and all that stuff. So, next one, encouraging positive, dynamic, motivational confidence builder. Okay, this is a big one when it comes to building a cohesive team. Maintain a positive atmosphere that builds people up and encourages growth in order to have a staff that wants to effectively execute the mission. Make it very, very clear to begin with that you have your people's back and have their back. Yes, and it comes with making some good speeches at time to time too. Yes, we're going to tackle this operation and we're going to kick ass. We're going to get this shit done faster than anybody can believe. You know, those type of things. Maybe not those exact words, because it probably have to be more in depth than that. But confidence builder and positive. Just a couple of those key terms in there. All right. Confidence builder. Set expectations high. Set them at the level of excellence. Letting people know that it's at this level because I know you can do the job at this level, at this top level, and we'll work to get you to that top level. To build people up, to encourage continuous learning, point out maybe different skills that they can build on. If there's anything that's good old critical infrastructure, and somebody may not know about one infrastructure asset like a water treatment plant. Like, all right, you don't know much about this? Okay, here's what we'll do. Go on a good old friend Google and start reading about different things about a water treatment plant, how many of them work, the different components in there, how they all work. So the person can like, okay, I get it. I know how this particular system works. And of course, yes, continue in higher education as well. That's always a good thing. There's nothing better than higher education. I like it so much. Well, I did stop after the PhD, but yeah. Yeah, it took all that brutal work for me to stop. It was a lot of fun, actually. All right, on to the next one. Oh yes, and this list here I threw in again. Effectively communicates and actively encourages multi-directional communication. Yes, I threw that list in there intentionally a second time because it's one of the most important foundational things to do when building a team and leading people. Next one, decisive. Leaders show their competence by being able to make a decision even when there may not be a completely good decision. Making decisions based on evidence available shows people to make evidence-based decision-making and emphasize continuous learning. Evidence-based decision-making means have facts to back up the decision, or at least you're utilizing the best information at the time to make that decision. Knee-jerk decisions, bad. Evidence-based decisions, good. All right. Coordinator, team builder, builds a team by including all potential partners in accomplishing the mission. Be inclusive of everybody involved. Whether there's internal or external stakeholders, make sure everybody's kept in the loop. And everybody's invited to different meetings and events that need to be there. Instead of just having lunch with the people that we normally have lunch with, invite other ones, see if they want to go. Okay, excellence orientated. Mentioned a bit ago about having a standard of excellence, setting a very high standard to really encourage people to grow and be ready to take on the next higher job. Because hey, you never know. One person might fall, and then guess who has to lead the team? Anyone else can be. Everybody should be ready to take over the next position higher, or the next two. So, excellence orientated, when people are very familiar with their own work and then getting them embraced and ready to take on a leadership role. That's really what the goal of excellence is aspiring to. Not only building great people that can do the work, we're also building great people that can take over the leadership roles. And then in turn, hey, they'll create the teams, they'll create that standard of excellence, they'll create the next generation of leaders as well. So, excellence orientated sets the initial stage with all the people. The standard is excellence. And excellence is the standard because the leader knows that people can meet that standard. Excellence encourages continuous learning and improvement. So, with that, there's one more of these leadership best practices. Utilize positive leadership traits at all times. Oh, I already said that? Oh, shit. I forgot I said that. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't. It's just so important. I wanted to say it again, actually. Utilize positive leadership traits at all times. Be consistent in behavior and attitude. And always be open to have a good discussion and conversation with people. All right. There. We got that wrapped up fairly well, and we got every topic I wanted to chat about today wrapped up very well. And I also can't even think of anyone in the national news that I want to make fun of anymore either. Well, anyways, again, I'm Dr. Tom McKnight, and everyone have a good week. Stay safe.